Good evening. Welcome to another version. It is another version of Activate Worcester. To begin with, I actually do have a full face, not just a fat face, but it's a full face. You guys are used to seeing us like this. And due to the magic of technology, we've changed it around, and now you can actually see us in full view. And us tonight happens to include, back from the wars of a brand spanking new knee. You want to show us the knee?
No, that's
You don't want to show it to us?
No, you don't want to see that.
Sandy Williamson, great having you back again. And he came in here with his little cane, which is kind of a nice thing. And we have a great show tonight. We have a guest. The greatest dilemma we have with this guest is we really don't know what to focus on because as we had a little pre-show discussion, there are 5 separate issues that we could do a complete show around. So we're going to get through as much as we can over the next 28 and a half minutes. And without further ado, why don't you introduce Stephanie to us?
Thanks. Well, tonight we're going to be speaking with Stephanie Davis. I was lucky enough to meet Steffi, gosh, a couple of months ago. I think, was it June? Was it that long ago? We were at an event over here at the DCU Center, and I got to know a little bit about her background, and it seemed like the things that she's involved in would be interesting for the folks that like Activate Worcester. Her background, originally from the Bronx, but lives in Boston now and has for some time. She's got a background in economics and finance. She also has her own media company, Patriot Games Media. And she keeps track of a lot of different things in the news and politics. And we're going to ask her to give us a little bit of a viewpoint from the Boston side of things compared to what we see here in Worcester. But she can help us understand both Worcester local events in politics as well as what's going on at the state and federal level. And maybe we may even get to talk about national politics, but I think that'll have to go another day. So, Ron, maybe you can
I'm just going to kick it right back at Steph. And Steph, what's on your mind?
Ron, Sandy, thank you, first of all, for having me. And it's good to see you
again.
Thank you. It's hard to believe it's almost Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Actually, by the time this is being aired, as you know, we're on a tape delay. This won't be shown until pretty close to the end of October.
Yeah.
Which means there will be every possible race as hot as it possibly could be. So the timing on this couldn't be any better.
So this is our election gift to the viewers. Perfect. Well, I thought what I would do is to give you a little overview of the races here in the Worcester County area. Mm-hmm. I put together a list of both contested House and Senate races, because I think the most important, Tip O'Neill famously said that all politics is local, and he was right about that. So, for example, you have in your 2nd Worcester district, you have Jonathan Zlotnick versus Richard Bastian. Mm-hmm. That's a contested race. Dennis Ross, you go over to your 4th district, you've got Dennis Ross versus Justin Brooks.
Mm-hmm. That's up in the Fitchburg area.
Yeah,
Fitchburg, Leominster. Yeah.
And you've got these districts are enormous.
Mm-hmm.
Another race that I highlighted was the 6th Worcester district, which is Peter Durant, who seems like he just made it in, and here he is facing opposition again. But I hope people will support him, because I think he needs it and he deserves it, and he had a tough election and a tough recount, and he's still standing. Mm-hmm. So that's a race that I would be focused on. The 14th district has three three contestants. You've got, including an independent candidate. So you've got Bill McCarthy,
who's appeared on this show.
And I saw him. I haven't. If Bill is watching, hello, Bill. I haven't seen you in I haven't spoken to you in a long time, but wish that race to go well. And then you have the 15th, which I believe is an open seat with Brian O'Malley and Mary Keefe. So that bears watching. Of course, the 18th, Mr. Representative Fatman versus Donald Bork. And then your Senate. Unfortunately, there are only 2 contested state Senate seats. So you've got Jamie Eldridge and Dean Cavaretta. That's Middlesex and Worcester. And then the second Worcester district, which I saw on my way in, would be Michael Moore and Stephen Simonian. I saw signage for both. So those are some races that you can the viewers can sink their teeth into and support the candidate of your choice.
And every one of those is being heavily contested. As you probably know, many of these races, for years and years, you'd have the primary would be the whole ball game because they were Democrats, and they would be uncontested, and you know what that leads to. The exciting thing about this is that each one of these is being aggressively contested. And hopefully there'll be some very, very significant changes and inroads that'll be made.
Well, Representative Fatman is an incumbent.
Yes, he is.
Representative Durant is an incumbent.
Yes, he is.
So that should...
Hard-earned incumbency in both
as I said, he just, in 11, he had the recount and the race. So he's had a tough road to hold on to that seat. So he probably feels he's already been through 3 battles. Yes, Andy.
Yeah, and there's also Bill LeBeau is opposing John Benenda, who's been in that seat.
17.
Yeah, for years and years and years, if I understand
20-something years.
And the incumbent would be?
Benenda.
John Benenda.
Yeah. So he's been there since the 90s?
Yeah, I believe that's
roughly
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And he's been uncontested in almost every race.
Right.
So that's good. There's an influx.
So there's some you'd see some excitement in the local paper about that with some of the things that are being tossed back and forth.
Well, for what it's worth, I think every incumbent should have an opponent.
Amen.
Just to keep them. To me, I think that's good. Competition is good.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that we think about when we're talking about Activate Worcester is what can people do, and if you're not satisfied with the current state of affairs, irrespective of what party is what, throw your hat in the ring and get busy if you don't agree with the way things are being prosecuted, either at the state level or the local level, or what have you.
And it's easiest to make changes with the person that you probably see in the grocery store or at the filling station.
Now, you use the word prosecution, and as you know, in our state, we've had not 1, not 2, but 3 in a row who were Speakers of the House that are all basically doing time. So what that tells you is that absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yes.
And that's why I think it's really exciting that people are out there now in getting involved. We have a situation right here in this city that at our last election in November, less than 20% of everybody that was eligible to vote came out and voted, which is horrible.
Oh, it was way less than 20.
In 08 or 10?
In 10. It was 19.8% of the whole city.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the primary.
No. The primary was in
worse.
5-6%. Hideous. But equally hideous, as I say, is that less than 20% came out and voted. And what that tends to tell you is that people are to the point they've just given up on politics. They're saying our voice is not being heard, so why even bother? And that's tragic, based on what I can see.
I don't think it's accurate, because of course, again, at the local level, when you get to look these people, presumably, in the eye at the gas station. I remember Sarah Palin when she was running mentioned being a mayor of a city she had to be accountable to her constituents because she would run into them, or they would run into her in the grocery store, at the filling station. And so that's the ultimate level of accountability. And as you go up the hierarchy, it becomes progressively harder. So I think these school board races and sheriff's races and governor's council will probably touch on.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Governor's council. There was a very hotly contested governor's council race, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Where you had a fellow who was running for governor's council who had been a sheriff and had been a state trooper, whatever. I forget his background, Tom Foley.
Okay.
And he ran against a young woman named Jennifer Casey. And Jennifer came out of nowhere and won. She's up for re-election right now, and she's uncontested. The sad part of it is a lot of people really have no idea of what is this governor's council. Can you share with us your knowledge of what that's all about?
Well, number one, governor's council's territories, the physical, the geography, are larger than U.S. congressional districts. Not only that, so in terms of geography, they cover huge swaths of territory.
So there's 7 or 8?
8.
8. So.
And the lieutenant governor, who I believe is the former mayor of this city, Murray, is an ex officio member. They meet weekly. The meetings are open to the public. They have say over things like notary public, justices of the peace, a parole board members. I think we've all seen in the past few years some of the shenanigans that have gone on with parole boards.
Or even malarkey.
Judge, oh yes, the M word.
Oh, yeah.
Judgeships, and that's a position of power and authority that's kind of off to the side. You don't hear
Off
it
the
mentioned
grid completely.
But
Absolutely.
they are there. As a matter of fact, they met today. There are 3 judgeships that have to be approved this month. Those meetings are open to the public. The candidates' names are public on the website. If you go to mass.gov, you'll find the Governor's Council. It's room 360. They do say that they're open to the public. You have the names and phone numbers of the administrative support personnel there. And I strongly urge all of us to pay more attention, again, to those types of, they're kind of quiet, nebulous positions, but they carry a tremendous amount of power. And it wouldn't be surprising if this Jen Casey, she sounds like an up-and-coming person, she's got more territory than a U.S. Congress person. She might just wake up one morning and say, well, I'm...
Guess what? Now, it's interesting you bring her up again, because what she really ran on was transparency.
Right. And there have been changes in the last 2 years.
For sure, for sure. And a big part of her campaign, as I remember, wasn't just quote unquote selling herself to the voters out there, but it was also instructing people as to what the job really was and what the governor's council really was, which is a whole unique situation. As I say, she's being rewarded now that nobody decided to run against her. She's really making it happen.
So I would pay, that's something, if you want to be active and get involved, that's, the door's wide open there. To just go to the hearings and just look around and see what, you'd be amazed at what you can find out just by showing up.
Yeah.
Now, we have, speaking of races, other than the big one, we have another pretty big one in this state, and this is obviously for the Senate, where we have Elizabeth Warren, who's really putting a lot of action into the city. In fact, they're having, on Friday of this week, they're having their Send in the Clowns program, where I guess they're going to be over at the DCU Center. And it's, you know, it's a big get out the vote kind of a thing. And they're bringing in all the heavy guys. They're bringing in Jim McGovern. They're bringing in Murray. They're bringing in Petty, who's the quote-unquote mayor and city councilor. And they're bringing in Al Franken. I mean, does it get any bigger than that? So I'm calling it the Send in the Clowns. And I think people will respond appropriately to the quality of what's happening with that. But what is your view? Again, you're more Boston-centric than we are. What are you seeing and what are you hearing about Scott Brown's campaign at this point?
All right. Now, I live in the city, so I'm kind of ground zero for the opposition or the Democrat. It's obviously a stronghold.
Are you a Republican operative?
No.
You're not? Okay,
I'm unenrolled.
Unenrolled?
I'm unenrolled.
Bless your heart.
But here's what fascinates me and a number of us in the city is, will the mayor of the city of Boston, Thomas Menino, is he really supporting her, Professor Warren, earnestly? Meaning, is he going to put the full weight of his political machine into get out the vote efforts?
For her?
For her, yes. Which would not be helpful to Scott Brown's case. Or is he being perfunctory and merely giving her tacit support or visual support, but effectively he's not actively opposing Senator Brown?
Putting on a show.
So I've gotten one source tells me absolutely Menino is not in this. He is not churning out his people. He likes Senator Brown. He's not going to actively work to oppose him, meaning he will not actively put his machine on the street to get out the vote. I stopped by Senator Brown's headquarters in Jamaica Plain, and I was told that several of Mayor Menino's top operatives were at a Warren rally outside the headquarters when Senator Brown and his wife made an appearance the other day. So I don't know what the truth is, but I think it's interesting that the mayor and his wife are in Italy for the next 2 weeks. And he did take a long time to endorse her. So there was some speculation that he was just going to stay out of it.
The reason I find that very, very interesting is that what we keep hearing is that reclaiming that spot is critical. The Democrats feel that it's deemed theirs. It is the quote-unquote Kennedy seat, and other than the presidency, that's the jewel. They want this one desperately. All I can say is that being a person who lives in this state, I'd be hard-pressed to want to listen to her whine for the next 6 years.
What does she bring? What does she bring to the table that's unique or different? She's a Democrat. She's from Harvard. She's a law professor. Big deal. Senator Brown is relentless in his constituent services. He's everywhere. I've never seen, you can't outwork him in terms of getting things accomplished for the people, returning phone calls. He's been relentless. He's actually an independent voice. I don't like every vote that he has cast, but certainly he's capable of adopting an independent stance. Whereas I think if Professor Warren...
Rubber stamp.
One sugar or two, Senator Reid. Basically, that's how that would...
But that's what they want.
Well, yes, but Scott has run this kind of race before when he's made his way up the ladder. He's always been in Democrat-leaning districts, and he's always had to... He works hard to pull it out, and in the end, he usually doesn't. People like him. So again, I saw a lot of signage when I came off the turnpike here, and you do see signage in the city for Senator Brown.
For Brown.
So
the interesting thing about him, he is battle tested, and
yes.
She's not. And she's pretty thin-skinned, and the one thing she does have going for herself, to some degree, it's analogous to what Obama had going for himself when he ran, was basically no voting record. Whereas Scott Brown obviously has many, many years of having been a state senator and so on and so forth, and now having been an actual U.S. senator, there's a number of votes that you can pick them apart on and reasons why and so on and so forth. And he is fair game because of that. However, when you look at the debates that they've had, when you get past the cliches, that's where he really stands and stands strongly. One of the things that we've heard is that through a lot of polling that's been done, this state, unfortunately, is going to go with Obama. It's just the way it is. But the other thing we're hearing is that many of those people who are going to vote for Obama are going to, in essence, split that ticket and vote for Brown.
I've seen on my Facebook travels, Obama, Brown, Tassay. Now, Richard Tassay is running on the North Shore against Congressman
Johnny Pockets.
Your words. And
no, actually,
he
Jeff
appears,
Katz.
yes, he appears to have there is a sense that he has a very good chance to turn John Tierney out of office. So I've seen that kind of thinking because Senator Brown is strong on fishing rights for New Bedford. I know that's not pertinent here, but he's done a lot of things for the constituents and actually worked. He works hard.
Sure he does.
Well, that's a jobs program. I mean, that's fundamental to it's an industry.
To the
right?
Well, part of the gross domestic product of this region is fishing. So I would like to think that those people would reward the senator for the work that he has done and will continue to do on their behalf.
There's another race. I guess it's for what do they call it? The presidency?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's it. Do you have any gut feel as to what's going to happen with that at this point?
If I were Barack Obama, I'd be worried. Some of the polls that I've seen, he's losing women, the support of women beginning to turn against him. Basically, everybody's begun to turn against him. All the groups that he had in 08 have begun to turn against him, or they're just not. The thrill is gone, as
intensity
they say.
is down.
Is it because of him and his record, or is it because, to a lesser degree perhaps, of what Romney is bringing to the party?
Well, and, I think you have to give Romney. Mitt Romney's not a stupid man. I was disappointed when he was governor that he didn't stay longer because he's a very talented, smart guy, and I think people saw that at that first debate. But I think President Obama so oversold himself that nobody could possibly, no human, and he's a human just like the rest of us, could live up to the hype that he built up. And of course his record it's just awful. I call him the boot on the neck of American prosperity. So, given the fact that the economy is a mess, and foreign affairs are not much better, I mean, I think people, the glow is off, the glow is wearing off, and people are beginning to say, well, what did we really vote for? Open change? Words.
Well, that's true.
But they don't pay the bills.
We are hoping for change.
Yes.
So it is hope and change. And I'd like to see that happen personally. To shift gears quickly.
Can I just say one thing, just one thing that I found astounding? It's David. I followed David Paleologos at Suffolk University.
Yep.
He's an exceptional pollster, and he said on Bill O'Reilly's show that his firm was no longer polling Florida, North Carolina, or Virginia because they were locks for Mitt Romney.
Earlier this week, last week at this point, Stacey Dash has been pilloried for basically being, you can fill in the blank. There's many cute little adjectives they've used for her. This is the same crowd that has said the same thing about people like Condoleezza Rice, Clarence Thomas, Alan West, and many other people who happen to be African American. And for some crazy reason, they're not in lockstep with the Democratic Party and very specifically with Barack Obama. Being African American and being an independent, but really a conservative libertarian, have you experienced any of that on a personal level?
No, not too many people like to tangle with me and tell me what.
I know. I shook your hand.
I have ways of. I have ways of blinding them into submission. But again, we're living in America, right? It's a free country. It's supposed to be. Everybody has the right to express their own opinion. So what's the big deal? I don't even know who Stacey Dash was until this thing erupted. Yeah. But what did she say? She's going to vote for the candidate of her choice. Is that a crime? Is this the Soviet Union?
I guess so. I guess it is. If you're not voting, quote unquote, the right way.
As determined by whom?
Exactly.
So who's threatened here? See, I sense that there's people who are being threatened that you would step outside the prescribed order. So, but there are more and more of those people, and I think it's a good thing.
Well, the thing of it is, you're looking at a solid voting bloc that's roughly 95% is what they're telling us, which is 19 out of 20 people who are African American are definitely going to vote for Barack Obama. The question is, how many black people will in fact vote, or are they saying, wait a second, I may not vote for him, but I'm not going to vote against him, so maybe I'll just sit this one out.
Well, I think that's one of them. The debate the other night said, I voted for you and I'm not happy. So I just think, again, President Obama is losing steam with everybody. Mm-hmm. So there will be some people who will just sit this one out.
The thing of it is, what this show is based on two things. It's based on ideas and it's based on activism. And when we say activism, we're talking about people becoming involved and becoming aware of the situations, and not just voting Republican because they always have, or Democrat because they always have. We want people to be looking at voting records. We want people to look inside themselves at the different issues. And also, once the elections have taken place, your job is not done. You should be watching people, look at the people you voted for, how are they performing, and so on and so forth. This is what should be done. Thank you very much. And they basically don't do that, and that's what's so sad. From your perspective, and I think you have kind of a unique view of this, what should people be doing who see this show? What should they be doing from this point forward from your perspective? Because one of the things I'm very impressed with you is your broad range of knowledge about the whole system. What should people be doing in their own right?
Attend a school committee meeting. Find out how your money is being spent. I think you would be shocked, not necessarily pleasantly. Again, the Governor's Council, it couldn't hurt to take a ride down to Boston and attend one of those meetings when they have judicial nominations taking place, and you can participate, see what goes on. Contact your city councilor, contact your sheriff. Take the time to get involved.
And be involved.
Look up campaign finance records. They're online. You can find out a lot about who's giving money to whom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all readily available.
It's all available. There are plenty of open databases that tell you how the monies are being spent.
So get involved. Take advantage of the tools that are out there.
We live in the freest country on earth, but it won't be if we don't make an effort.
It's our money, it's our country, as long as we protect it.
Constitutional self-government.
And once we don't do that, it's over. I love that music, but I hate the music at the same time, because that means the show is basically over.
We had too much fun.
I loved having you on. We'd like to extend an invitation to have you on again.
Thanks.
Steph, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Good show.